Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Welcome again to all participants. Today, Alhamdulillah, we have another interesting session, webinar or leading across generations. We have our honorable speaker with us here today, Yang Berbahagia Professor Datuk Dr. Abdelaziz Berghout. Okay, without further ado, let us now begin with the recitation of the
Don't for the delay.
Al-Fatiha. Okay, before we start, allow me just to introduce briefly about our speaker. Let me share screen. Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm Madiha, Dr. Madiha from CPD, Professional Development Unit, PDU at CPD. As for today, as you all know, so we are going to have this special session. So allow me just to introduce that the Professor Abdelaziz is currently the Dean of the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, ISTAC IIUM, OIC's External Advisor on Cultural, Social and Family Affairs from 2020 until 2025, Deputy Rector of IIUM 2011 to 2018, Dean of Corporate Strategy and Quality Assurance from 2009 until 2011. Prof. Aziz has a PhD in Islamic History and Civilization and a second PhD in Education, Curriculum Development and Instruction, mashallah. He was invited to serve as the chairman of the OIC's Committee on Developing the Strategy for Empowerment of Family and Marriage Institution in OIC member countries, 2019, Chief Coordinator of the OIC Committee for the Preparation of a Guiding Policy Document on the Integration of Ethics and Values in Children, Women and Family for the Benefit of OIC member countries, 2023. He served as the Deputy President of the African Asian Union of Universities from 2021 to 2022, member of the Board of Governors of the International Academics University, UK Virtual University from 2022 to 2023. Prof. Abdelaziz has published 12 books, over 90 scholarly works in indexed and refereed journals, both locally and internationally, and over 140 papers in conferences and seminars, both locally and globally. His recent edited book is SDG 18, Spirituality, Values and Culture for Humanizing Sustainable Development, A Future Worldview 2023. Lastly, on the awards and recognition, Datuk Professor Abdelaziz has received several awards, including the Global Relevance and Citizenship Award from IIUM Malaysia on July 20th, 2022, the Jewels of the Muslim World from OIC Today in Malaysia International Award in 2019, Visanian Appreciation Award, Madin Academy, Kerala, India, 2015, Ajman Award for Quality and Excellence, the Ruler of Ajman, 2011, biography included in 2000 Outstanding Intellectuals of the 21st Century International Biographical Centre, Cambridge, England in 2005, and biography included in Marquis Who's Who in the World, 22nd edition, 2005. So before we proceed with our special webinar today, I would like to remind everyone, CTD points will be awarded to those who fill in I attend, recorded in Zoom attendance for a minimum of certain duration, and also fill in the evaluation form within 24 hours. Okay. All right, so I would like to welcome Prof. Dr. Abdelaziz. Tafaddal, Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Madiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Dear professors, doctors, administrators, academicians, brothers and sisters, welcome to this session or to this lecture on critical thinking. For leading across generations, I would like to thank Dr. Mera and Dr. Madiha and the CPD team for the invitation. And I think this is one of the very important topics that needs a lot of discussions, especially in the environment of the university. Talking about critical thinking, I trust and believe should be in the mind of each and every one of us, whether we are academicians, academic administrators, administrators, and also we need to help promote and teach and integrate critical thinking to our students, especially postgraduate students. So brothers and sisters, critical thinking is one of the very important skill, very important knowledge, and very important capabilities or competencies that each and every one of us should be pursuing in a format of long life learning. Not only you study it in your co-curricula or you study it in one subject or in this training and thank you very much, Assalamu alaikum, no more critical thinking. No, it must become a habit. It must become part and parcel of your mind, of your knowledge, of your character, of your action, of your problem solving. Because, brothers and sisters, critical thinking is something that helps at all levels of work and all levels of life. So with this understanding, we really need all to give due attention to this topic and area of critical thinking. Now, that's number one. Number two, in this introduction, I would like to really thank CPD for the great efforts that you have been doing in the last 2-3 years, trying to provide to our staff all this type of exposure. Now, a topic that you have entrusted me to do is talking about critical thinking for leading across generations. Here, somehow we are talking about three kind of areas. We talk about critical thinking. We talk about leading and leadership. Leading means you will be able to navigate, you will be able to lead, means you will be able to be resilient, empowered, able to do something or to deal with one issue or one challenge, which is the across generations. You know, all of you are familiar nowadays with this idea of you know, Gen X, Y, Alpha, Z, and boom, you know, baby boomer, and all these generations that are living in one context, in one environment, maybe in one place, in one office, in one family, but they differ in their mindset, in their perception, in their understanding, in their attitudes, in their emotions, in their way of looking at things. So we have like to deal with this three dimension of the topic. And to help you and help myself also get some ideas in this topic, I would like to tell you from the beginning that topics like this, talking about critical thinking, creative thinking, The session should be more interactive. The session should be more, question and answer, interventions, comments, critical assessment and views. And that's why I think I really don't want to talk too much, but I want to maybe listen more to questions, and then we get collective answers together so that we help one another understand and help one another navigate this issue of critical thinking across or leading across generations, brothers and sisters. Let me just begin this lecture by the first slide, which you see in front of you here. Brothers and sisters, we are living in a very different world, in a very different context, in a very different environment. And each and every one of us, whether we are scholars, lecturers, professors, students, administrators, parents, and whatever, we need really to understand the context where the world is standing today. We understand what's happening in our world. This is very important for your present actions and for future undertaking. Not knowing the dynamics and the type of things happening and being affecting you in life and in your daily life will be very disastrous in the future. Maybe in the Islamic world, still in some countries, because maybe of lack of technology, science, and this digital transformation, digital literacy, artificial intelligence literacy, still some countries in many parts of the Muslim world are not aware even of what's happening. That's why maybe the hit will reach them later on. But those who are having technology, using the technological transformation processes to integrate technology, artificial intelligence in all processes, in all transactions, e-government, e-management, e-governance, e-teaching, smart schools, you are creating a different environment and a different mindset for action. So in the West, for example, this idea in US and Europe, this idea of working and doing across generations is very deep now in their culture, in their educational system, in their things. So brothers and sisters, the first thing we need to understand when we deal with critical thinking is to understand the situation where we are living today and where we are working today and how things are changing and affecting our way of work, our relations. That's very important. Now, if you look at this slide here, in the slide talks about a lot of things which are there for the last 30 years or more, and now escalating with the sophisticated artificial intelligence that is with us, especially us in universities who are supposed to be in the leading front of change, in the leading front of nurturing scholars, nurturing professionals, nurturing the people who will be handling the economy, who will be handling the government, who will be handling this. So what type of people you are nurturing, what mindset you are nurturing, what skills you are imparting, what knowledge you are giving, what attitudes you are giving, what vision and what resilience you are actually imparting and giving to your administrators or to your lecturers and then to your student who will be in the society later on. If you look at this slide here, all these things you see in front of you are affecting you on a daily basis, whether you know it or you don't know it. And one reason why many of us don't know it, because we don't have the critical thinking mindset. I'm not talking about the group who is listening to me now. You are all in the university and you are working on critical thinking, but most people, they don't have a critical thinking mindset. And they don't have a critical thinking competencies and skills of a daily nature that helps them act, behave, assess, analyze, identify, synthesize, think, give solution, evaluate solution, create things. So how critical thinking is really must be part and parcel of our daily life. Even your decisions when you are in the market to buy something or to solve a problem, you need critical thinking skills and competencies, brothers and sisters. This critical thinking must become part of our habit, of our action, of our way of doing things. So here in this slide, we talk about post-normal thinking, post-normal situation, post-normal context. You know what is post-normal? Means the normal things that we were used to have before and the normal way of doing things, the normal approaches are being disrupted, are being different, cannot cope with the situation of what's happening in the world. So post-normal is a kind of situation and context and scenario where things are in our life, whether a university scholar or student or a mother or a father, or things are happening in a different scale, in very fast. A lot of problems come simultaneously. Environment problem, crimes problem, corruption problem, government problem, and they become very fast and intensely affecting your way of deciding in your institution or in your ministry or in your university or wherever you do. Things are happening intensely at one time, on parallel, fast, and you have to deal with them. So post-normal dynamics pushing all of us, really the first thing to do is to become critical thinkers, because without critical thinking and you start questioning, you start becoming inquisitive, you start becoming able in your mind and brain to link things together, to be multidimensional, to put things together, understand how situations are happening, then we will be in a really real situation where a lot of problems happening, but we cannot cope with them because we are using the same normal solutions, the same way of doing things, the same as Einstein one time said, you cannot solve the problem with the same approach or method or way you discovered it. So you discovered a problem with this way, this approach, this mentality, but when you come to solve the problem, you need to go out of the box. You need to go out of the normal. So post-normal dynamics are affecting all our life and our mind, our understanding, ourselves. We really need to understand what is this post-normal, what is its dynamics, how it affects, how things happening, what type of skills we need to deal with the situations today. Before this, maybe you have a problem of numbers of international students in your university. Your way of solving the problem, just you do marketing, you do promotion. Is this now with this post-normal dynamics where a lot of other problems, a lot of other competitors, a lot of other people doing many other ways to bring a new student to your institution, for example, you are using the same normal way and promoting this, and people are using artificial intelligence to promote and do and see. So that's the idea of post-normal and how it affects us and how problems become cropping now and then from places where you don't expect, and then you have to deal with them in your kulia or in your class or in your family or whatever place you are. Now, for example, we talk about this fourth industrial revolution. All of you know how it impacts us. We talk about this big data. We talk about this genetic engineering, artificial intelligence. We talk about digital transformation. A lot of things are happening in front of you and affecting your institution and your place and your teaching, for example, but you are not aware of it, and you are just copying the same way you are copying. I think this way we cannot really move forward in dealing with this type of situation. In fact, I give you an example from our classroom, in our teaching and learning, and how critical thinking now and in the future will be a must for everybody to be very savvy with critical thinking, because it's the beginning of solving most of the problems that we are having. Let's say in your class now, you are dealing with students from different generations, for example. Let's say you have the postgraduate student, 30 years, 40 years, 25 years. You have undergraduate student where you have people from generation Z and millennial, and you don't understand the way how they study. You don't understand the way how they deal with teachers, what type of teachers they think in their mind, whether a teacher who is still lecture-centered lecturer who is using the book and using the PowerPoint just to tell everything there, or you are a facilitator, or you are a person who is also ready to cope with the use of IT, use of artificial intelligence in dealing, in teaching, in helping the student. So this is also a problem of generation gap. You have, for example, a lecturer, he is 60 or 65, he's from X generation, for example, or maybe before or a little bit after, and maybe he's still not familiar or not able to cope with the use of IT or AI or in his teaching and learning, while the student are already living with their smartphone or things, and whatever thing you say, they already see it in front in the class, but they see it in a video or they see it in a very different way of artistic presentation, but you still explain it to them from the book and explaining the book and taking time to explain one idea, which you can just with one hint to a video or hint to a picture, it can give the message. So this situation brought this issue and challenge of working and leading and dealing with cross generations. So brothers and sisters, from this first slide here, you see what is the context in which we are working, and also you can see what type of skills that we need. For us as lecturers, as professors, as doctors, as researchers, and for postgraduate students also, they really need to cope. Let's say, for example, using AI in teaching and learning, maybe in some places still people thinking halal or haram, or we do it or we don't do it, or it will destroy us or not. It will no. This is one generation thinking this way. Some other generation, they already use it and they cope with it, but they have some ethical issues in using it wrongly. Another generation, another group of people, they use it nicely, effectively, and they know its ethical implication. So there are generations. And the existence of these generations and perceptions of generations in the environment where you work affect your decisions, affect also your success. For example, we put here system thinking. This idea of system thinking is another important thing that all of us should be learning. If we want to cope with the different generations, we cope with the reality, we cope with post-normal societies. So later on, I will come to this system thinking. Now, having put you in this context, brothers and sisters, you look at this here, critical thinking is one of the 21st century skills. Like others, like creative thinking, like communication skills, like leadership skills. Critical thinking is almost present in all models of human resources or human resource development. It's a need, it's needed, it's a competency. It is very important for all types of learners to have critical thinking skills, brothers and sisters. Of course, there is a difference between critical thinking and creative thinking. Maybe later on we can talk about it. Critical thinking is more a structured kind of discipline or a kind of a subject where things are structured and you go vertical, you know the steps, you know the procedures, the processes, you know how to move from identifying issues to analysis to all the steps. But creative thinking is more horizontal, more artistic, more out of the box, more not structured, use more skills to deal with situations. But critical thinking is a kind of a competency where it teaches you really to empower your brain to be able to assess things, to evaluate, to decide, to use evidences in a very smart way and fast way, and decide sometimes on the spot how to deal with situations. So that's one thing I want you to remember. So we can empower our brain, it can empower our problem solving skills by actually learning the competencies of critical thinking. So now, having said this about our introduction, let me just remind myself. I know all of you know about all this generation from alpha, from a silent generation up to alpha generation, which is after 2010. So each of this generation, you actually see them in your society in a daily life. Even in your university, you can see people 60 years, 70 years, and also 20, 18, 30, 35, 40 are all living with you. And each of this generation actually has its characteristics, has its perception, its mindset, its way of looking at things and doing things. And when we don't understand this and we are not critical enough to or aware enough of these differences, then we enter into issues and challenges, and we cannot cope, and we quarrel, and we conflict, and we fight, and we do because of this gap. And this also happens in family, and sometimes leads to even divorce, to stress, leads to mental problems. From a generation, a father is like 60, he has a child 9 years, and then another one 15 years, another one 25, another one 26. How to deal with all these generations? So this is a real issue, brothers and sisters, and sometimes we are aware of it, sometimes we really some of the people, they are not aware of it, but they deal with it with their fitra, with their life experience. And sometimes they are successful. So brothers and sisters, this is very important here. And these are some of the explanations or leading across these generations means, brothers and sisters, this one, the research suggests or studies, especially in the US and the West, and this, they are very in it or on this type of business. A lot of businesses, a lot of things are happening because of this leading or navigating across generations. In the Islamic world, we are working on it. We're trying to be aware of it. We are trying to understand what is it and how it influences our life, our problem solving skills, and so on and so forth. So in the West, in the US, for example, a lot of problems are happening because of the lack of this cross generation or understanding the different mindsets and how you deal with them and how they behave processes. Now, these are all some information, and also there is one slide here where we spell out the characteristics of each group of this, so that you know the indicators. You know, in general, let's say, what is the work ethics of, let's say, Generation X? What is their leadership style? For example, leadership style of Generation X, they look at things in a different way, and their style is more like to face challenges, like to deal with the challenges. Let's say Generation Y, they are more participative. Participative means they wanted to interact, to engage, to do. If you deal with them from the mindset of baby boomer or another generation, you might not be able to understand how they think, because they use more IT, they use digital, they use social media, they use this. They don't, for example, they don't like to read books like Generation X. We go to our yellow books of heritage and we read Al-Ghazali 2 volumes, 3 volumes, and we love it, we like it, we do. These new generations, even preparing a poster will take him a big deal of thinking. So we need really to understand, because this affects how you influence your student and how you make sure that they take the learning outcome that is set in your course outline, and you deal with them. So I don't want to delve much into this. I would like to go more. These are all for you later on to read and see what each generation, how they think, how they do things, and so on and so forth. But let me...
Abdelaziz,
yes.
would you like to continue, or you want to respond?
Yeah, we can open. Anyone wanted to ask a question, please go ahead. Intervene, ask a question, go ahead. Add ideas, please go ahead.
Because we have 2 interesting questions in the chat box. Would you like me to...
Okay, bagus. Go ahead.
Okay, this is salam Prof. My question is how to balance the need for innovation, often driven by younger generations, with the need for stability and experience, often valued by our older generations.
Yeah, this is this is another lecture, but let me just answer. Later on, we will come back to it. This is a very, very important, very good question, and most people ask this question. And I think one of the key to deal and to bridge that gap is actually critical thinking. And both of us, the other side and our side, need to learn critical thinking. What is critical thinking? Critical thinking is that awareness. It's a skill, it's a competency. You can learn some procedures, but also critical thinking means in your mind, whether you are Generation X or Generation Z, you don't accept things firsthand. You don't judge firsthand. We need to teach people that attitude, that mindset of, as De Bono say, taking one step backward before you decide, before you do. Okay, now that's the way how Z generation do. That's the way how X generation see. So what is to me, one of the common things that can help us work together is critical thinking. Is to be or to have that critical mindset where the Z does something, I don't jump and I don't jump and say you are this, you are that, means I already created another problem. But I say, okay, oh, that's the way how you look at it. Wow, that's different. Can you explain more on this? Oh, I am a 60 years old man. Can I do it the way you are doing it? Do you think I can do it? Okay, can you help me? You know, one of the strategies can be done, I tell you, is they say that for us, X generation and millennial and others, we can make the Z generation our mentor, teach us. We learn from the Z generation. Do we have this mindset to do this or not? As a person who is a big professor and all his life is a professor, and now you tell him, now the time to learn from Z generation, from this student who is in your class, 18 years, 19, 20, you learn from him the way how you teach him. You learn from him the way how you deliver. Do we have this mindset? Do we have this attitude? Do we have this readiness, really, to create that environment of learning nicely and collectively together? So to answer such a question, I think the attitude need to change, the mindset need to change, and what mindset we create, what attitude will help us actually bridge the gaps and help the Z understand Y and X, and help X understand Z and Y. So I think just in a nutshell, training, but in the right things, in the right skills, in the right cases, in the right examples, and helping people and teaching people how to be ready to change. You remember that saying of one of the Western scholars, the illiterate of the 21st century is not the one who doesn't know how to write and to read, or the one who doesn't have knowledge. No, is the one who learn and relearn. What is unlearn? Unlearn is very interesting here, because learn is okay. Relearn is okay. And learn means you have the attitude, the mindset, the understanding, the ability, the motivation to identify inside all your experience, inside all your knowledge which you accumulated for 30, 40 years, you identify that this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and I'm willing to relearn. Unlearn is a very sophisticated attitude, is a very sophisticated skill, is a very, how to unlearn means self-identification, self-awareness that this knowledge, this belief that you have for years and years and years is actually wrong. And you are using it to judge and to deal with people and to build your relations with people. But in reality, it's wrong. That's why De Bono says, what is creative thinking is that there is not only one solution to a problem. There are many solutions. But because of our attitude, because of our mental and psychological blocks and mindsets, we make wrong things become beliefs. And we build on that and do. So the answer, let the generation become our teachers. Us who are 60 become our, let's say, we really respect their views, ideas, and listen to them the way how they want us to teach them. So I think that's my comment to this answer, to this question.
Okay, we have Prof. Abdulhamid raising hand.
Boleh, Abdulhamid always ask me questions.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Prof? Thank you very much for this wonderful session. Thank you, CPD, and thank you, Dr. Madiha. I would like to confirm that as Muslims, critical thinking is part and parcel of our existence. The first issue of a believer is Tawheed. So in the Quran, in Surah Muhammad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Know that there is no God but Allah. So you have to accept the fact that belief will not be taken for granted. You are not a believer because you are born in this Islamic family, in that religious family. No, you have to accept the fact that Allah is your creator and your sustainer. So this is the basis. You cannot be a believer unless you know that there is no God but Allah. So you are not supposed to emulate and imitate others, your parents, your lecturers. So as lecturers, we have to inculcate this value of critical thinking is the basis for our existence. As Prof just now shared with us, in everything we do, we have to have critical thinking. Another issue is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the story of Iblis, alayhi la'na, the creature, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Iblis, and when he was asked to bow down or prostrate for Adam alayhi salam, he denied, and he was arguing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah didn't say, you keep quiet, you shut up, okay, you damn. No, he was arguing with him, and he gave him the chance, the opportunity to discuss with Allah. So this is another important element for us to reflect. Critical thinking means take and give, argue. Don't take things for granted. So we have to teach our students to be critically ready to accept things, to argue with us. So we have to encourage them. But unfortunately, in our classes, we don't encourage students to criticize, to think critically. So this is my humble point. Thank you, Prof. Aziz. I was his student, I think 1990, 95, 96. So he was telling us to not take things for granted. Okay, accept fact that are already in the Quran and Sunnah. All other things, open your mind, open your heart, criticize, and you will benefit a lot. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Abdulhamid. You are my teacher. Yeah, I remember I taught you before, and I think one of the things I first class since 95 is tell them to be inquisitive, to ask questions. And I tell them in my class, no questions, no marks. So they laugh, and then we change the attitude. So brothers and sisters, thank you, Dr. Abdulhamid, for your wonderful addition to our discussion today. Dr. Madiha, ada lagi orang?
Ada, Prof. Okay, hang on.
Boleh.
Okay,
I want to learn also.
Sure. Do you think that schools and universities help and encourage critical thinking, or is the opposite happening?
Thank you. This is a very good question. Can I just, because I don't want to generalize, but we really have in the Muslim world this issue of teaching critical thinking. Not only as a theoretical subject, but becomes a mindset, becomes an attitude. Because if I may refer to Dr. Abdulhamid just now, brothers and sisters, from an Islamic perspective, you cannot do ijtihad, you cannot be a mujtahid, you cannot be a problem solver, you cannot give fatwa. Fatwa, what is fatwa? Fatwa is problem solving. Is people got issues, got problems, got mas'ala, they want to solve it, whether in your transaction, in your family. So the mujtahid in Islam cannot be a mujtahid if you are not a critical mind. Look at, study all the ulama of Islam, from Al-Ghazali, Al-Nawawi, Al-Shafi'i, Al-Izz ibn Abdul Salam, ibn Khaldun, Al-Shatibi, Wali. You find that there are many things common among them, but one of the things is common among all these ulama of Islam is critical thinking. They are all critical minds. Read the book of Al-Munqidh min al-Dhalal for Al-Ghazali, for example. Read the book of Al-Burhan for Al-Juwayni. Read, you will see from the Muqaddimah, from the introduction, how the critical mindset is cutting across the debate, the discussion, the analysis, the evidence, and so on. So, brother, the one who answered, our brother or sister, we really have in the Islamic world this issue of creating the critical mindset. And one of the results of this one of the manifestation of lacking this, you will find that without generalization, because there are many Muslim countries are doing great and well in this area, one of the indicators and manifestation is actually lack of problem solving, and we are more consuming the Western knowledge and the Western inventions and the Western science and the Western technology, and we are not inventing, we are not creating, we are not. One of the bottom line, the roots of this issue is lacking this critical thinking in the contemporary Muslim world. And actually critical thinking and criticality is one of the signs of ijtihad, and ijtihad is the key to problem solving, and problem solving is the key to innovation and creation of ideas and things. So we really, I have been, especially when I was the Timbaland rector of UIA, I have been to many countries in the Muslim world, and always this issue in education is asked, is raised. We don't have critical thinking, we don't have critical thinking, we don't have critical thinking. And partly is true. Even in Malaysia here, if you read yesterday or 2 days ago, there will be our Minister of Higher Education, and I think there will be one conference, 2 days conference in August. They call it iFuture 2024, and I think UKM is one of the collaborators with some universities from overseas and the Minister of Higher Education. And this, one of the main things is about critical thinking and how to integrate critical thinking to these new generations and in our educational system, so that our students, our graduates, our lecturers, our communities, especially in the educational system or educational areas, be able really to do and practice critical thinking, so that we can see innovation, we can see solutions, we can see different type of people going to the administration, to positions, to places, to administrations. So we really start innovating. I partly agree that we really need to work on this critical thing, even though the Quran, the Sunnah, our ulama, our tradition, our heritage is all exhibition of or manifestation of criticality and critical thinking. But since the decline of Islamic civilization, decolonization, and then globalization era, and then the problems of post-normal and how the ummah is put in conflicts and issues, we are really unable to create those environments, ecosystems, and that can help really create critical mindsets. For your information, when you look at it from the perspective of the curriculum, the learning outcomes that we have in our universities and in the Islam, all is there. All is there. We want critical thinking. We want the competency of this. It's all there. But how do you get it done? How do you assess it? How do you ensure you do it? How do you create the ecosystems for experiential learning? And how do you do critical thinking where 90 or 80 or 70% of your assessment is exams? So how? You know, we need to teach problem-based learning, we need to teach case studies, but we need really to teach it in a new sophisticated manner, which takes into account the generations. So this is my answer to our brother.
Prof, we also have just now Dr. Ahmad Al-Muhammadi raising hand.
Bole Ahmed is my friend. Go ahead.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think that your lecture on critical thinking has generated a lot of interest among the listeners here, which is very good. We have more than 200 participants in this discussion. I would like to congratulate CPD and also the speaker for discussing about the subject. I have two questions, Prof. Number one, given there are so many generations and their thinking style, like Generation Z, X, and today my daughter told me about Generation Alpha. This is a new term for me. She said that it's no longer about Generation X, now Generation Alpha. Oh, I see. This is something new. So given this many style of thinking and generation, should we learn from each other? Meaning that we should learn from Generation Alpha, Generation X, Generation Y, and so on, instead of looking at their weaknesses and also the something which is negative that they have. Let us learn from each other. That's number one. I would like to seek your opinion on this. Number two, when we talk about critical thinking, I think in our Turath and tradition, we are not only try to develop the strategic and thinking skill to develop, but also to detect danger, to detect threat, including detection of the deception of Iblis. For example, Ibn al-Jawzi writing the book Talbis wa Iblis, because in his opinion, he believed that the best strategist, the best critical thinker is Iblis, because he managed to deceive human beings. So I would like to hear your comment on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you very much. Yeah, wonderful. You know, Dr. Ahmed, for your first question, if you see in the screen now, Generation Alpha, you know, this Generation Alpha, born, let's say, from 2012 until 2025, means that their parents are actually millennial, and they are already aware of technology, of using of technology. Now they have their children are much more sophisticated because they use also online, they use social media, they use e-business, they use, you will find 12 years, 14 years, 15 years, they have their own business, e-business, they generate money using music, using this. So that's the point here, that we really, as lecturers, as professors, as even Muslims in particular, we need really to know this generation, what is their mindset, what tools they use, what means they use, and we need to heed that one. We should not just know, but we don't act. We start resisting, and once we start resisting, there will be issue, and we are building issue, not solving problems. So for me, I think you are correct, and the alpha generation is means you are going to deal with them 2025, 2030, they will be in universities. Maybe my view, and I think a lot of people are already talking about it, in the future, I don't think that we should be having bachelor degree in 4 years and 5 years. If this is the generation that will be studying with us, and this is the generation that using IT and using getting the information which we used to get in 10 days or 15 days, they get it on the spot instantly in these post-normal times, then means the amount of knowledge that you wanted to give to these people in 4 years, they can get it in 1 or 2 years, and the other 1 year can be, for example, experiential and going more for exposure in the society and all this. So there are a lot of implications of this generation alpha and millennial on our curriculum, on our way of, especially us as a Islamic university, we wanted really to train people and nurture people with a mindset, with sense of spirituality, values, ethics, sense of, or attitude of an inventor, of a mujtahid, attitude of a problem solver, attitude of akhlaq, ethicality, attitude of Islamization, and he has a mission in life, ummatic vision. We really need to see what type of training in the future we need for our lecturer as student, so that we expose them to this. You know, it's not to me, it's not about, you know, we have one long time ago, there was a KPI called let's say for our administrators or for our lecturers in all universities, they need to take such number of training, 7 days training or 5 days training or this. The question now, I think it's not about the number. It's about the nature, the quality, the type of training that you give to people and summarize life and time and experience for them, so that in one lecture, in one session, they already you summarize for them many things that they will be learning in the next 5-6 months. So the way of delivering it to change, the content, and so on and so forth. So brothers and sisters, and Dr. Ahmed, I think that's my comment for you regarding the first. The second one, I think for Iblis and all this, to me, there is no book, there is no revealed book, or even other religious books or philosophical books related to religion and vision of life. There is no book talks about critical thinking and thinking like the Quran. The Quran dealt with not only shaitan, with Fir'aun. If I just want to give you example how the Quran deal with, Fir'aun is a very arrogant human being who even claimed that he is God, and he told his people and engineers to get for him a ladder to go at us in the sky and see. He want to see God, and what is God doing up there? This Fir'aun with all this arrogance, but he in the end is a critical mind. He is thinking, he is asking question, he is objecting, he is doing. The Quran mentioned his story for many hikmah, for many lessons, not just to show him that he is Fir'aun, he is arrogant, he is kafir, he is this. No. There are many other dimensions of the story. One of them is to teach us how the Quran encourages critical thinking, how the Quran encourages thinking, even to Fir'aun who is kafir, who says, I am your Lord. But Allah tell Musa and Harun and Musa, اذهبا إلى فرعون إنه طغى. Go to Fir'aun, he is arrogant and he passed the limits. And look what the Quran say. He didn't say go and kill him or go and this and go and do this. No, that's not the logic of the Quran. Even though he is the utmost human being who claims that he is the Lord, and from Aqidah perspective, it's very hard in Islam to accept this. But the Quran say, Allah say to Musa and Harun, go to Fir'aun, he is taghi, he is this. But look what he say, very powerful. He says, وَقُولَ لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا, and talk to him in the nice of a word, in a kind word, in the best of way, in the best of statements. لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَزَّكَّى. Maybe he might remember, or he might think with himself and change his course of thinking. This is a wonderful example of teaching critical thinking with values, with ethics, with arrogant people, with your enemy. Imagine you as a lecturer, you are dealing with your student, and your student has a different perspective, a different understanding, a different explanation to what you are saying, and he thinks you are wrong in what you are saying, but he is afraid, he is not brave, he is not he doesn't have the courage really to tell and to do. He just keeps silent. And this, what do you do in that case? To me, in that case, I will ask the student, say, check up, you talk, you disagree with me, you give me your evidence, you give me your dalil, and let's discuss. And that's what I do with postgraduate student, my supervisee, even at ISTAC here, and they know this, and some of them maybe are listening here. When they differ with me and they have logic, I tell them, put your idea, put your argument in your thesis, and don't put my argument, because you have. Now, in this Quranic case of Fir'aun, the Quran teaches us to listen to them, to listen to them, to let them argue, to let them give their evidence, to let them explain their things. What do we learn from this? How much is Musa and Harun patient? Sabar. They know that Fir'aun is killer, and he's killing Bani Israel. And they know that this is not a right character, but they obey Allah. But Allah was teaching them how to be patient, how to be rahim, how to be kind, how to deliver the message, even to the most arrogant, how to argue, how not to judge and just say, you are kafir, habis. No. This case of the Quran explains a lot about how Islam is critical and teach critical thinking. If you look at the screen in front of you, this guy is a scholar in critical thinking, and he's talking about critical thinking. And look what he summarized in critical thinking. All what he's talking about here is all in this case of Musa. And imagine all the other cases there is no book in the world, especially revealed books, teaches critical thinking and creative thinking like the Quran, and in real life cases of prophets and their families, prophets and their work. So, brothers and sisters, I take it from here, I move forward. Okay, so you know, for us to be critical thinkers, whether staff and students, we need to learn certain sub skills or sub attitudes or something, because critical thinking from the Greek Western perspective is like a dry science, is like a dry procedural ilm. But in Islamic perspective and from Islamization perspective, critical thinking is a ilm which is in the environment of ethics and akhlaq and values. And that's what we learned from the Quran and from the ulama. A great mind like Al-Ghazali in his Al-Munqidh min al-Dhalal, or in his Tahafut al-Falasifa, the discrepancies of the philosophers. He was arguing with the philosophers. Read the book, you see how much values, how much ethics, how much akhlaq in his arguments while dealing with logic, while dealing with. So for us to enhance and impart and create an environment of critical thinking to deal across generations, we really need to teach these type of things you see in the screen. Asking question. You have to train your student from day one to be inquisitive. There is no critical thinking. There is no, if you are not inquisitive, you don't have the inquisitive mindset, forget about critical thinking. And forget about getting new things and innovate and give great strong judgment. Let's say evaluating information. You teach your student or your researchers, before you bring to me any knowledge, anything, you need to evaluate your information. Where is your evidence? What is the evidence? Are you sure it's the evidence? Is the evidence enough or not? Are you sure how you get it? Can you compare it? That's what they call the Socrates method or the Socrates approach to learning through questions. There is a book I forgot the name of the scholar, Leading or Leadership Through Questions, more than 300 pages. Maybe later on I can send to CPD the title of the book, the scholar. It's a very wonderful book on leadership through questions, through critical inquisitiveness, analyzing, providing your own, help your Z generation, your millennial, help them to develop their own opinion, which is different from your own opinion. If let it be, if it's different from the opinion of the father, let it be. Umar ibn al-Khattab used to say, "Allimu abna'akum لزمان غير زمانكم." Teach your children to a time different from your time. Very wonderful idea. That's what is human resources is based on today. So we need not just to teach our students to be inquisitive and ask us in the class, and they are worried to ask questions because they might be afraid of the teacher, of the mark, of this. No, all this need to go if we really wanted to implement the Islamic perspective of critical thinking. We need to teach our students not just to be inquisitive, but to have their own opinion. Argue for your own opinion, even if you are Z generation. It's not about age. It's not about I am 70 years or 80 years and you are 20 years. You don't have to argue this way. You don't have to ask this way. No, it's not like, even in the early Islam, Ibn Abbas, for example, was one of the youngest Sahaba, and he was arguing with the great ulama in his time, and everybody was happy with him. Where is this tradition? Where is this mindset? Where is this ilm? Where in our ummah of Islam, most of the ulama were very young. And most of the ulama, you hear Al-Ghazali and this, they just died 45, 50, not like when he reached 70, he started talking about hikmah. The whole educational system and delivery and contents need to be really redesigned to really from when you take a class, a course of 3 months, what do you get in the end? It's 3 months of encounter and engagement with lecturer and student. How much do we get in the end? Can we assess this? Can we check? Anything wrong with the delivery or the content or the cases, or we are just teaching and people get degrees and voila, life is on. So brothers and sisters, I want you to look at this, analyzing, being open-minded. I can talk 1 hour, 2 hours about this, solving problems creatively, applying. And as you see in front of you here, I have to move forward. So brothers and sisters, we need really to look at this. Now, I provided for you here the, I think most of you know the Bloom taxonomy. And Bloom taxonomy, even though it's from the Western liberal perspective, but it gives a tool how you assess the learning of people, starting from memorization and up to creating, you know, and then analysis, synthesis, application, and all these things. That model, if we really apply it, but really, and have the assessment for it, it can make a difference, inshallah. That's why our trainings in the university or in family or any other places, we need to check how these terms or these skills be taught to different levels of people with different strategies and delivery systems or ways. You cannot teach creative thinking to lecturer like you teach it to Z generation. It's very different. That's why I asked before the lecture, I sent a message to Dr. Madiha and say, Dr. Madiha, who is attending this session today? Is it the academician or administrator or both? Or, and then I said, because I want to see the level of discussion, I want to see the way. So is it correct, Dr. Madiha?
Yes, Prof.
Yeah, I said that. So that's why, brothers and sisters, we really need to improve on many. If you look at the screen here, they give you a lot of strategies for creative thinking. I don't want to delve into it. Time is running very quickly. Now, this generation gap, because as I told you, I will be talking about critical thinking, generation gap, and also something on leadership. So these are the differences among the generations that have impact. But let me caution you and myself that this idea of generation gap and the generations, it was not actually developed in the Muslim world. It is not a Muslim product. It has been developed within the Western civilization context. And this generation and how they divide the generation, what criteria they use, what characteristics for each generation, to me this one is relative. It's not like fact. And also it is more related to the socio-cultural context in the West. And as you know, of course, the West, because of the civilization of the West, is universal, and globalization, everything come to us and we become consuming. So when you consume this type of knowledge and type of models, you have always to be observant and to check whether it is 100% applicable to your socio-cultural context, for example, in Malaysia or in Algeria or in Pakistan, or we need to do adaptability, looking into our indigenous context and so on and so forth, so that we don't just adopt anything and we implement. To me, I just take it as one indicator to look at how I improve my teaching, how I improve my critical thinking, how I improve my dealing with my children or my father or my people or others. But I don't take it like a principle of Sharia, like maqasid. No, it's just one indicator to deal with situations. So brothers and sisters, this generation gap is real. It's there. We have to deal with it. And I provided for you here some of the examples. Later on, you can learn and see how they behave, how they do. Now, brothers and sisters, this slide here, I took it from one of the websites. It's down there. It's actually summarizing my lecture here. It's all here. You just take this, sleep with it, think about it, internalize it, work in it, apply it, later on evaluate it. Wonderful, wonderful. And I can give you, for each of these 25 or more strategies here, I can give you ayah from the Quran or hadith from Rasul. It's all there in the Quran and in the Sunnah and in the practice of our ulama and our people. So it's all there. And I think we can really, what I wanted to summarize here, I want to tell the participant today and those who will listen to the video later. Our university or our organization or our ministry or our government or our whatever can provide you opportunities for training like this today, can provide you exposure, can do. But I tell you, it is only you, I include myself and you, who can make the change. We can provide you thousands of lectures, thousands of trainings, thousands of lecturers, thousands of things. But if you and me, I don't have the mindset, the motivation, the attitude, the awareness, the readiness, the patience, the perseverance, the insistence, the courage to take the journey of self-directed learning and changing myself to be better and to be able to teach my Z generation, my millennial generation and others, and to solve problems, if it doesn't start from you, not much will happen. And this is why, after you listen to my lecture today, the first question you need to ask in building your criticality, critical thinking, and this, what to do after I listen to this lecture? What to do tomorrow, next Monday? What to do? What attitude? What thing must change in me immediately? Maybe for me, I can say what I do next after this. I'm going to learn more about what are the best ways and strategies to deal with each and every generation. To do that, I will Google, I will listen to videos, I will do this. I will spend my time while I'm driving to listen to some videos. From my place of work to my house is 45 minutes. I can listen to 2, 3, 4, 5 videos I can learn, I can get skills, I can practice. So brothers and sisters, it's all in us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. God will not change the condition of any people unless and until change what is in themselves. What is in themselves, in their mindset, in their character, in their soul, in their heart, in their behavior, in their culture, in all these things. So, brothers and sisters, what you see here is a very beautiful slide, but the change must happen in you and from you and starting there. Otherwise, business as usual, brothers and sisters. I want to move forward. There are other things, brothers and sisters. If you look at this slide here, also cultivating our critical thinking, please look at it. Very beautiful, summarized by one scholar. Look at it. This one also, look at it. Approaches. How do we improve our critical thinking, brothers and sisters? Now, brothers and sisters, today we are talking about critical thinking for leading across generations. We have just learned together about critical thinking, about generations, and we have established the fact that this is an important topic, and this topic needs our endeavor and our efforts, and it needs us to build our critical thinking mindset and action. Brothers and sisters, as lecturers, as administrators, we are Khalifa on earth, especially when we talk from the perspective of the International Islamic University in Malaysia, where we adopt the idea of integration, Islamization, comprehensive excellence, internationalization, sustainability, civilizational dialogue, leadership, and all these 7 missions of the university. It is very important for us to understand that as Khalifa means by default, we should be leaders. We should be leading. That's why your title that you give me, which you give me, is critical thinking for leading. You lead means you lead the way. As our Professor Tansri Richter was saying, leading the way. Leading the way means what? Leading means you show the way to people. Means you are role model in what you do, in what you teach. Role model for your student, for you the administrator. Administrator is role model for the customers, and lecturers are role model for student, and academic administrator are role model for head of department. You are leading the way, brothers and sisters. So that's why the idea of Khalifa on earth, the idea of leadership, the idea of leading must be in the mind of every and each lecturer inside IIUM. And later, or in the bigger circle, in the mind of all our students, administrators, and all our community. You know why? Because as Khalifa, you have to lead, and in order to lead, you need to show the role model. And for you to show the role model, you need really to understand, internalize, and practice Islamic values and Islamic teachings, brothers and sisters. In your teaching, in your relations, in your research, in your finance, in whatever you do, people, when they see you, wow, this is from IIUM. How do you differentiate him from IIUM? Wow, the way how he deals is very different. Oh my God. He is leading by example. He is motivating me. He is communicating and persuading me. He is knowing the weaknesses and the strengths. He is listening to me. He is learning lessons from reality. He is open-minded. I can talk to him. He is seeking my advice. Wow, I am Z generation, but my lecturer, who is a great professor, he is telling you, can you please explain to me this way of doing things? I don't know it. You are much better than me on this because of your exposure to IT and this. Please explain and let all our students in the class learn from you. By seeking advice, by knowing that there are differences among people. Don't put all students as the same. Don't deal with your audience all are philosophers or all are like mathematics and what we call the abstract. No, there are people like arts, people like abstract, people like science, people don't like anything. How do you deal with all these people, brothers and sisters? So I want you to look at all this later on when you go back home. The PowerPoint is with everybody, but each and every sentence in this one is really having a message to send to you, brothers and sisters. To end my lecture, and then we can open question and answer, please heed what Einstein used to say: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different result, it can't happen. Einstein also says, stay away from negative people. They have a problem for every solution. Also, Barker says character is power. Overall, others must trust you, have faith in you, and believe in your teaching, in your relation, in your way of doing things and moving forward. With this, brothers and sisters, I thank you for listening. May God bless you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Thank you, Datuk Professor Abdelaziz. I would like to invite Dr. Nasir. Dr. Nasir Rahman, would you like to ask question?
Not Nasir, just brother. Okay. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes. Thanks, Prof, for highlighting the different generations in the beginning. But is it true that different generations have totally different mindset? This is an issue that we need to discuss or perhaps disagree. Because as we can see now, is it true? The question that we need to ask, is it true that we humans, whether in the East or in the West, are progressing in terms of critical thinking or reasonable thinking? Critical thinking is basically reasonable thinking. Is it true? But we see in the world now, it's not that. Many philosophers are talking about now the pandemic of unreason, the age of post-truth, as you can see in UK, white supremacy. What happened to their so-called, what they call obsession towards reason, rationality, science is gone. And America as well in the world nowadays. So even though these people are talking about using Bloom taxonomy, the problem with Bloom taxonomy, it compartmentalizes three domains. Intellect is separate from others. But the Quran is different. The Quran talks about lahum qulub yaqiluna biha. They have qulub, their hearts. They think through the hearts and so on. So they are not saying that lahum ukul, it's lahum qulub. So what it's telling us is that in Islam, there's no compartmentalization between three different domains. And we can see when we compartmentalize, that's different what's happening in UK and US nowadays. So what I'm saying is that in Malaysia, for go back to our local situation, is that we have this problem of not just a problem only of bureaucracy, right? Well, not just a problem of bureaucracy, but you have so many asabiyah. You have the liberaliyah, you have the salafiyah, you have ashariya, whatever. And people obsessed with it, even though there's explosion of information, but this kind of negative ideological asabiyah is killing us. That's it. How do you deal with it? How does university deal with it? Number one. What I'm saying that number two is that we have a problem of language. Also, students are very poor in language, whether Arabic or whether English. So you're going to deal with that. Without language, to what extent can we think on an advanced level? And there's another issue also, which I think that what you say is true, Prof. I agree fully. The role model. I think the lecturers, we don't have KPI where lecturers are compelled to participate in critical dialogue publicly, openly, where lecturers disagree with each other. Students talk about, lecturers talk about, well, critical thinking, but students do not see lecturers in action, where lecturers disagree with each other with adab and with hikmah. Students don't see that. You're only talking in class. People do not see the munazara, the hiwar, open discussion. No one. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu lima taquluna ma tafalun. Why you people who have faith? Why do you say things and you don't do? I feel that somehow I'm a hypocrite. I tell my students to do critically. I don't participate in open critical discussion and disagree with other lecturers. And we feel this kind of status quo. People do not agree with each other. I'm a lecturer, I must be right. I don't debate in public. I don't like the word debate. I use critical thinking. But my last comment is that in ISTAC, I remember my very close friend, Allah Yaham, Dr. Osman Al-Muhammadi, or brother Osman Ahmad is not here. And he's good. May Allah bless him, Allah Yaham. And even I have disagreement with him, but he accepts open dialogue. There's one dialogue I went to, not dialogue, it's multi-dialogue, where the Salafiyah, he belongs to the Asharite, invited him. There were 10 Asatiza Salafiyah invited him to have a very critical dialogue. He came alone for that dialogue and they interrogated him. More than 10 Asatiza in Subang Jaya Medical Center. I was there. I was shocked, and they recorded one person having a critical dialogue with more than 10 Salafiyah Asatiza. It's open. Our professors, our lecturers, do you dare to do that? Show to the students that you dare, you have to porridge that you are shaja'ah to do that. Then students, your actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words.
MashaAllah.
Thanks a lot.
MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, Dr. Nasser. Wonderful, wonderful. That you are the starting point of change. That's wonderful. If we just take what you say and start working on it, I think we can improve, inshallah. Let me just comment very briefly on what you said regarding this idea of the generation. That's why I commented in one part of my lecture that we don't take this idea of generations and we don't take it like 100% a model that can be applied to everybody and to every culture and to everything. You remember I said we take it just one of the indicators, and I mentioned that in the West this is they are doing business on it. It become a very big business. But in the Islamic world, we are still. Now, as long as, Dr. Nasser, especially for your first question, because it's a very deep and philosophical question that can guide and direct our future educational system. What type of people we wanted to nurture and to produce. This will tell you what type of an educational system you need and whether that educational system can deliver what you expect as an outcome. Now, I agree with you, and I can tell you that theoretically speaking, this idea of generation is there. And also the gap between generation X or millennial or Z or alpha, it's not that like we write it theoretically, age from here to here means they cannot mix, no. In reality, there is a different dynamics. In the world of reality, you might find X generation, one got 60 years, he can deal with Z generation much, much better than the Z generation themselves. So in the real world, in their life, the dynamics, how things happening, even very hard also sometimes to see these differences visibly, except you do research. You do. That's why we differentiate between, theoretically speaking, we might say, yeah, there are generation and each one has its own characteristics and this from this and that's how, but practically it's all intermingled, it's all integrated. It depends on the environments where they live, the exposure they have, the ecosystems guiding them, the policies guiding them, and so on and so forth. That's why I think I don't have that's why I said the solution is, for especially for a university like IIUM, I hope, because we adopt a philosophy and a vision and a mission that is restoring the educational system and restoring all knowledge based on Islamic worldview. Means we need to build a practical educational system and environment that can nurture the type of a philosophy we are expecting. It will take us long years. The 40 years we spend is just actually putting the platform. But maybe generations to come, 40 years later, they can show you they can build that educational system where this gap of generation or how we deal, it will become all a reality. You deal with it. It's classes to be taught. It's skills to be taught. It's new subjects to be taught based on our philosophy. That's why I think I can delve on this in another lecture. How to go about it. Idea of language, I agree with you 100%. 100%, because this issue of language, when you have your student, for example, not mastering Arabic, not mastering English, not mastering even sometimes the standard Bahasa, and not mastering this, and then you are pushing them to the corner to do this and do this and do this and become this and become this and become this, it will become, and I think this one for the policy makers of the educational systems and university, and is to look at this practically. The idea of dialogical approach and dialogue and how ulama, the lectures, they come, sit together and they differ among each other and they don't shout and they don't do, and the students are watching. I give you an example in the history of Islam. Dr. Nasser, in the time of Ibn Taymiyyah and Al-Ghazali, there were, if you read in history, there were debates between Al-Ghazali and Ibn Taymiyyah and others. In the session where Ibn Taymiyyah stay or give the discussion, there were, you will find in the same session, one Mu'tazili, one Murji'a, one Mu'attila, one this, and they argue and they give argument and they do things, and when they finish, they say Assalamu alaikum and they go to their life. But they teach that virtue of use your mind, and of course, from Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, anyone breaches the red lines, of course, they will deal with him. But I'm talking about that space for criticality and values. Okay, let's move forward. Ada lagi soalan?
Thank you, Prof. I'm afraid that we already reached the end of
Okay,
the
boleh. Habis, alhamdulillah.
Before that, I would like to invite, we have with us today Prof. Dr. Mira Kartivi, Director of CPD, to deliver a closing remark.
Okay,
Tafadhal, Prof.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. First, I would like to thank Prof. Datuk Abdelaziz. Thank you so much for a very interesting session. I've just glanced through all the feedback in the chat as well. So it's a very interesting discussion as you give a lecture, Prof, in the chat. There's a lot of comments, a lot of opinions, a lot of feedback and questions, but I think you have answered most of the questions already. So it's a very lively sessions and I learned a lot. Thank you so much. Jazakumullah khair. From these sessions, you actually have re-emphasized the importance of critical thinking, not only about re-emphasizing the skills, but also how to look at the skills and how we can actually strategize ourselves in introducing the skills in our class, given that our class now have many generations. Undergraduate, probably most of them would fall under Gen Z or I don't think we do have a lot of millennials. I think most of them are Gen Z. And also Alpha Gen is not yet in the university, thank God. So we soon will have them in university. And also, you also have taught us on the awareness of how to deal and communicate with these different generations. So thank you so much. I really hope the session gives some insights for all of us who are new to the notions. I think we are not probably new to the notions of critical thinking, but new on making sure that we introduce these skills strategically and meaningfully and intentionally, because exactly as what Prof. Abdelaziz said earlier, as mentioned in the Quran, that Allah will not change a qawm unless we change. So the perceptions that we have been disadvantaged by some of the system in the earlier educations, which is probably unconducive for critical thinking. I think those perceptions, as much as it is a challenges that we have to face, but I really hope that will not stop us from introducing the skills meaningful in our class and course, inshallah. So again, Jazakumullah khair, Prof. Abdelaziz, Prof. Datuk Abdelaziz, thank you so much, Dr. Madiha and Sister Hana from PDU, and the team from CPD. We have quite a number of teams assisting for today's session. So Jazakumullah khair, thank you so much. May Allah bless all of us, and may Allah give us the rewards for our sincere hard work, inshallah. Thank you. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamualaikum.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof. Mera for the invitation. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
We will invite you again. Since this is not enough.
Definitely. Inshallah, Prof. We will invite you again for perhaps another series of the same topic. Is that okay, Prof?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Inshallah. Okay, as promised, can I please invite everyone to turn on your camera for group photo session before we end? Okay. Which one? Page 2. Page 3. Okay. Hang on, yeah. All right. Alhamdulillah. So again, I would like to record our special thank to Datuk Professor Abdelaziz for your time today, and Alhamdulillah for a really informative and interactive sharing session with everyone. Thank you also to all participants. Hope to see you all again in the next webinar by CPD. Let us all end the session with Suratul As and Tasbih Kafarah.